Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting of the Virtual Tasting Society. My name is Vadim Perlovsky, and today I'm excited to welcome a brand that we have yet to discover. This is a first for us, a wonderful brand in the ImpEx portfolio. Sam Filmus, as always, has been super generous in setting us up with this tasting. Thank you so much, Sam. We love you and all of your brands. But today we are trying Indri. This is a brand that none of us had heard of until a couple of years ago when Sam started promoting it in the US. I know you did a big tour. Madhu, were you the one out here that did the big tour?
Yes,
Wonderful.
please.
Hey, thank you so much for coming out. Sorry we missed you in person, but we're excited to have you over Zoom. I know our members are kind of spread out all over the US. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing that other than Jason, most of the people here are in LA. So that's well, and Sam, of course, in San Francisco. But we are national, so we're excited to have you. Thank you very much for joining us all the way from India. Indri single malt Indian whiskey. That's what we're tasting tonight. We're super excited to try this. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the brand. We're excited to taste these.
Sure. Thanks, madam. And thanks all of you in this room for taking out your time to spend the next an hour and a half to go through some of the stuff that we make in India at our distillery. Firstly, my official job is that I take care of the international sales of the company. So my job is to take Indri out of India around the world. So as a part of it, what I also do is speak to people like you, different days in different parts of the world. I travel quite a lot and spread the joy of us making a good single malt whiskey in India. A few years ago, people wouldn't even believe that single malt whiskies could be made out of a country like India. And today, there are at least five distilleries who make some fantastic single malt whiskies. And proud to say that we are leading the pack, both in terms of the size, capacity, and also in terms of volumes. So that's where we are. I live in Bangalore. Bangalore is in the southern part of India, and the distillery is in the northern part of India. I have a map coming up soon so that you get some perspective to it. But I come at least twice a year to the US and I do a tour of the US, do tasting, and every single time it's so nice to hear all the love and the feedback that we get on the whiskeys. Um, we have some exciting stuff for you to taste today. We have the Indri Trini to start with, and then the Agneya, and then we'll do brew the cask strength single malt, and then we have a very special liquid, a single cask barrel that Sam had handpicked. I'll let Sam talk about it when we get over there. Cask number 1746. It's a 7-year-old red wine cask, which we shipped in a tote all the way to the US, and then Sam bottled it. And then we'll finish off with some interesting rums that we do from our distillery. Very unique, very different. And maybe for all you single malt lovers, the rum could be a very different thing. But then it's something that I wouldn't want anybody to miss. So that's the lineup for the day. I do have a presentation which I will share right now, and then we will talk about a lot of things. But then for us to get the best out of what we have today, I think we need it to be interactive. Sam had already given me a heads up that you guys are absolute geeks. You just love knowing more. I'll try to answer whatever I know to the best of my abilities. Else, I promise to get back to you guys if I don't know anything. But so keep it interactive. We will take breaks. We'll go around. Um, Somebody doesn't have the Trini.
Everybody
How
has
do?
the Trini. I didn't read the bottle properly. It's the one that says single malt.
Okay, perfect. So, before I start, any opening questions, or should I just dive into sharing my slides?
I have so many questions, but I'm going to hold off.
Please.
I'm sure your slides will answer most of them.
Hopefully. Just starting to share the slides. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see the slides, and yeah, perfect. Okay, Indri. It's a single malt distillery, which the brand as such was launched in the year 2021, towards the end of 2021, and hit the US market, our first international market, in July, August 2022. So pretty much 4 year, 5 years out there in the market. But we are proud to say that we are the 15th largest single malt whiskey in terms of sales as of last year, in terms of volume sales. So we did about 170,000 cases. So it took us right over there.
Is that
Unlike,
Nash? Is that internally? Is that within
uh,
India?
very interesting. So unlike most of the single malts from India who have taken the products outside and become big outside and then got back home, we launched our single malts in India first and then took the products globally. So even today, 70% of what we produce and sell is sold in India, and 30% is sold outside India. And so 70% in India is a huge volume. In fact, the 70% sales outruns Glenlivet and Glenfiddich in terms of volume. So we're the largest selling single malt in India as well, including the Scottish single malt. So we've got a strong holding in our home turf. And internationally, we are present in 30 different countries, about 25 different duty-free stores. So pretty getting global, getting there. But for 5 years, it was a large thing for a distillery, for a brand like us, for it to happen. So there's a lot of humility in saying that. Also, I know, also the fact that yes, it also is because of the liquid that our master distiller blender Surinder puts across. We'll come and see him, and I'll talk more about him as we go by. Um, Even before we get into anything, I think it's very important to put a perspective of India. And although it's one country, what you're looking at is the map of India. And if you look at the star mark over here, right below a place called Amritsar, up way up north of Delhi. That's where our distillery is located. And interestingly, the name of the village where the distillery is located is Indri, and that's also one of the reasons why we have named the brand Indri. Uh, Indri, also an Indian language, Sanskrit, which is the founding language for many Indian languages, means the five senses: the sense of smell, touch, taste, sight, and sound. And we felt at that point of time that name of the village, five senses, what better can happen? And that's how the name Indri came into being. And uh, what we also need to understand is that it's a big country, right? You need to fly at least 3 hours from New Delhi to Bangalore, right below. That's where I live. That's where I'm taking this call from. And from Delhi to Bangalore, that's about a 3 hours flight. So it's about 2,500 miles. It's a long distance. So again, from Delhi to Mumbai over here is a 2 hours flight. So we are really spread out. Also, what happens is that we do have a lot of microclimates or regional climates. Just to give you a perspective, Bangalore is where Amrut, the distillery, is located. So Amrut is another single malt whiskey and one of the first single malt whiskies out of India to come out to the world. So they set up way back in 2004, if I'm not wrong. That's when they launched their single malt whiskey. Now, Bangalore has a climate which is very, I would say, moderate. The summers are from 16 degrees Celsius to about 35. In the maximum summers, it's about 35 degrees Celsius. Um, Goa is on the west coast of India. Now, Goa is a place where Paul John, which is another distillery from India, is located. Now, Paul John has got zero winters. It's coastal. It's very humid. They've got uh, hotter climates. So anything there is from 25 degrees during the winter season, so-called winter season, which is November, December, Jan, and the temperature goes up to 40, 42 degrees Celsius with high humidity in the air. Now, Indri, where we are located, the climate is totally different. So we do have extreme temperatures. We call this the northern extreme temperatures that we have. The summers go up to 122 Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius, and the winters go down to 32 Fahrenheit, which is almost 0 degrees Celsius. So there is a huge variation in climate because of the way it is located. It's right below the foothills of the Himalayas. So we have a lot of winter cold coming in from the mountains from both the sides, from this side and from the east and from the west. And what happens is that the summers are very dry and hot. So literally, for the months of end of April till about September, the whiskey is actually cooking inside the barrel at very high temperature. What does that do is that we get a lot of extraction of colors and flavors in a much shorter period of time. And the winters, they go down very cold. It's about 3-4 degrees Celsius and then goes down to zero at some point of time, or 32 at some point of time. And the whiskey is like literally sleeping inside the barrel, pretty much interacting amongst themselves and cutting off those rough edges that can happen across. So that's India. That's where we are located, and that's how different climate happens in different parts of India. So anybody else other than Sam who's been to India, if you can get a quick, um, I can see Jordan putting his hands up. Yeah, Jordan. Jordan, which part of India did you go to?
I took in college. I took a cruise around the world, and we went to India. We stopped in Mumbai, and then I took a train all the way south to where Vasco da Gama was buried, and then back up.
Right. Yeah, that's Cochin actually. That's where that's Kerala where Vasco da Gama was buried actually. Very nice. So you got to see a lot more of India because West Bombay is very different from the south of India that you traveled across to. So we are a country with 1.5 billion people, different cultures, different flavors, cuisines, and we are a complex world by itself. So in this complexity, we also make some complex whiskeys, and that's what we're going to taste today. I would invite you to start sipping on with your first single malt, which is the Indri Trini. We'll come to it because we've got some more stories to share before we get there. Right. Um, okay. Now I'm just wondering how to go to my shared content. Okay, here I am. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna stop sharing it and sharing it again. I just can't. Okay. So what else makes single malts from India very different is also the type of barley that we use. So it's 100% malted barley that we use pretty much like anywhere in the world who makes a good single malt whiskey. So what we do is an Indian six-row barley. The Indian six-row barley is very different from the traditional Scottish two-row barley. Now, what happens is that the Scottish two-row barley, as you can see from the image, the husk is bigger. The grain is also bigger. So there is more. It's more starch focused. It's more starch focused. The Indian barley, the grain is very small. The husk is thick. So when you actually take the grain out for your distillation process, you find grains that have higher protein content versus higher starch content, and therefore the liquid that we get out of distillation is very oily, very fruity. It's got a nice buttery note to it. So the mouthfeel of the liquid is slightly viscous than that you would get from a traditional Scottish two-row barley. These six-row barley are being grown in parts of Rajasthan. So when I say Rajasthan, you have to just see over here in the map. If you see Udaipur, so the Rajasthan is over here. It's almost a desert all over, with very small parts of it growing the barley. The barley grows all the way from here to the distillery in the north. And also, this is the same barley growing region for all the beer industries in India. For all the other single malt, be it Amrut, Paul John, anybody, that's where the barley grows from. So that's a barley capital for us. and the barley from Rajasthan goes across to across to all the distilleries and breweries in India. And it's a 2,000-year-old crop. This crop has been earlier used as fodder for cattle before the whole beer and whiskey was being discovered. So that's where the Indian barley grows. So none of the distilleries in India have malting flows like you would see with traditional distilleries in Scotland. So what we all do is we contract with the farmers, we buy the barley from the farmers, send it to a malting unit, and there are huge malting units who do floor malting, and we call them, these malting units supply us the malted barley. So the malted barley in gunny bags come all the way to the distillery, and then the process starts. Pretty much all single malt whiskies in India use a traditional Indian 6-row barley. So do we, and that's why we all have a very different fruity, unique flavor that we get across. As I told, just a comparison between the climates between the northern India and the climate in the space side. So we have temperatures which are very different from what happens in Scotland. Our angel share are pretty high. We lose about 10 to 12%. The year one, we do have the angels and devils taking their own shares because we think we lose about 13 to 14% on year one because the wood becomes really dry before we fill it in. They also take their share, and the angels also take their share. And what we are left on an average after 3-4 years is about 10% evaporation loss every year. So either we bottle it and sell it, or we leave it to the environment. So that's a huge challenge that we face back down over here in India. And it's a great thing because it adds all the flavors, all the character, all the complexity. But the sad thing is that we have to wait for at least 4 to 5 years for the liquid to get its character. So we've already lost 40% of the liquid by the time the first bottle comes out. By 8-9 years, it starts getting woodier and tannic. So then either we have to blend it properly, or we have to let go of the liquid, drain the liquid, and do a refill of the liquid. So that's a constant challenge that we have back here in India.
Are you predominantly aging in ex-bourbon barrels or fresh new charred oak?
We do have a good inventory of ex-bourbon, fresh charred oak, some of them, not all of them. We do have some red wine casks, Oloroso, PX, different types of sherries, a lot of wine casks from different parts of the world. And so I would say we are a bourbon, ex-bourbon, red wine dominated distillery in terms of our barrel capacity. But we do have virgin oak because virgin oak, we need it, but we can't leave the liquid in virgin oak for a long time because it will extract a lot of those spices. So we have to be very mindful of what time and for how much time we are leaving the liquid in the virgin oak cask. So our malt plant today, we just increased our capacity. We are a 14 still distillery. We have 7 spirit and 7 wash. And the wash stills are about 25,000 liters each, and the spirit stills are about 15,000 liters each. So today we can distill, if we run to our full capacity, 365 days, we can distill up to 30 million liters annually. And we have currently about 75 to 80,000 barrels under maturation. I'll show you some images of our warehouse as we move later in the slides. And a large portion of this is bourbon, red wine, sherry, uh, different types of wine casks like Masala, the Sharan, some cognac casks, wine casks both from Napa Valley and from Australia. So we're sitting with different inventories of different types of barrels. And what really works for us is the climate, the interaction, the quality of barrels, and having a fantastic master blender. So that's what it is. We are proud to say that the kind of crop that we use is a non-hybrid, non-GMO 6-row barley. We are 100% fossil fuel free distillery. So we don't use any fossil fuels in our distillation process. So that's a few more things that I wanted to add um, before we get into the first expression that you're already starting to taste or nose. So I'm just going to stop share over here and get back to the slide. But any quick questions, anything that sounded interesting for you, did not sound interesting for you, happy to answer.
I wanted to nerd out. Sorry, I totally stealing the spotlight. I wanted to nerd out about the barley. The 2 and the 6 row is the 6 row. You said it's non-GMO, so it's naturally occurring. And like, how is that? Because we've had Indian whiskeys before, and I've had them ship me like 6 row barley, but I didn't really understand. And now that I Googled it, like the way it grows, it's the 2 row is like a line, and this looks like a star.
Right.
So interesting. Is there 4 row barley? Is there 10 row barley, or is this just 2 and 6 and that's it?
Um, so in India, traditionally only the 6 row barley has been grown. It's a native crop.
Okay.
And what has happened is earlier people never knew. See, the whole concept of beer and whiskey is very new to India. When I say new to India, it's when the British came that they brought in the whiskey and the beer culture with them and left with us in India. Even before the British came, India still drank a lot of spirit, but they were all native spirit, distilled out of sugarcane, out of mahua flowers, out of cashews, out of local fruits, out of coconut sap, toddy, whatever it is, right? So the barley that was available in India is a 6 row barley. What is also happening now in India is that 2 row barley is also being grown in India, but they're not native. They are 2 row barley from the Europe that's come to India, and there is also 2 row barley available. There are no 4 row barleys that's available. So it's predominantly 6 row barley. It's a native barley, and that's why it is non-GMO. It's not hybrid. It's a native grown crop. Um, um,
Does the
uh,
6 row barley have different varietals like 2 row barley does, right? Because there's like names for different varietals.
No, predominantly the native barley is only one varietal.
Okay.
We don't have a particular name for it. We call it the traditional 6 row. But there are no many other varietals of the 6 row barley that ever existed.
Got it. Thank you.
Just going through the chat box, there we see, yeah, I can see some tasting notes over there. Chili, ginger, dates, raisins, oily mouthfeel. That's from the 6 row barley. Wood spice, thanks to the tropical heat that we have wood spice in all our whiskeys. Citrusness, orange juice, citrusness is an integral DNA of all the expressions that you will see. It could be either a dash of lime or orange peels or mandarin oranges. Um, uh, Blood orange, nice. Red wine casks in Trini, yes, that's a very good call, as Sam says. And Jane says the earthy note, nice. So, any further questions before getting to Trini and see what it is actually?
How long is the fermentation?
72 hours. During the summers, maybe 5 hours less, but usually it is 72 to 75 hours. And we have huge fermenters. We have currently about 18 of them, each about 50,000 liter capacity. 3 mash tuns. Mash tuns are about 8.5 tons, 6.5 tons, and 4.5 ton capacity. So for us to feed the 14 stills, we need to have such a big capacity backwards, else we're not able to feed the stills appropriately. So that's what it is.
So you mentioned you had 14 stills. That's, I mean, for a brand that started out not too long ago, that's a massive, like you went in hot. Like, how did you
Yeah.
know that the demand was going to be there?
So very interesting. The distillery was set up in the year 2010, right? And one of the reasons when we set up the distillery way back in 2010 was not thinking that we are going to launch a single malt whiskey. Now, India as a country is a huge market for um, blended whiskeys, which is grain and malt whiskeys. And while Amrut launched it as a single malt whiskey. A lot of distilleries in India age malt whiskies primarily to use it for their own blended whiskies, not to bottle it as single malt. And a lot of distilleries in India used to import a lot of scotch from Scotland to add it to the blended whiskies. So when the distillery was set up, we started off with 6 stills, and the intention was that we will mature whiskies and supply to all the distilleries in India who are buying malts from Scotland. And we could do it in 3 years' time. 3 years liquid is as good as an 8, 9 year old liquid from Scotland or 10-year-old liquid. And we could offer it at a much quicker pace because you're cutting down shipping costs. Price is going to be an advantage. So we started maturing since 2012, and by 2015, 16, we started selling to almost all distilleries in India. And all the distilleries in India has our malt as, or used to have our malt as a part of their blended whiskies. And that demand was already there. So expansion was the way forward until when the pandemic hit. We were sitting up with aged malts which are 5, 6, 7 year olds, and none of these distilleries who were buying blended malts from us wanted aged single malts. 5, 6, 7 year old single malts they didn't want because they priced more, and they don't want such high quality malt to go in a blended whiskey where the character disappears. So what do you do with 5, 6, 7 year old whiskey is that then you bottle into a single malt whiskey because they're fantastic and people would appreciate it as a single malt rather than using it as in a blended malt space. And that's how the initial capacity was set up, and further expansion happened. With the growth and with the love that we got for Trini. So we are today a 15, 16-year-old distillery. The brand is only 5 years old, but this has been happening for such a long time, and that's why the distillery did all they could, and kind of a forward thinking, I would say.
And you mentioned that 70% of your sales are in India. From other brands that we've talked to, they've said that financially, right? That's why they sell blended. Are you still selling the single malt in India? Is that what people are drinking, or are you making your own blend?
No. The 70% of sales that's happening in India is 100% single malt. It's the same
Wow.
liquid that you're drinking. It's Indri. It's a single malt brand, and that's what it is. We do have a blended malt in our portfolio, but the sales of that is probably 200,000 cases that only in India. I'm not including that when I say 70%. So it's only 70% of the single malt Indri that you guys are tasting across.
That's amazing. And so that's to that's not an elite beverage. Is that to the everyday consumer?
See, what is happening with India is that India is moving towards premiumization. The economy shift in India has happened in such a way that till about a generation ago, let's say 20 years ago, it was the rich, the elite, and then the poor, and then a very small middle income group. Today, I think the people below poverty line or the poor is really shrinking, and the middle is growing up. The rich still stay there. The middle income is growing up in such a huge way, thanks to IT, thanks to all the developments that's happening across, thanks to the back offices of the world being in India, thanks to the research centers that are being in India, thanks to a lot of local industries that have come up in India in terms of different industries. The earning of an average 30-year-old Indian is so nice that he could afford a single malt whiskey and enjoy himself. And therefore, the whole single malt space in India is growing. While I just read a report 2 days ago, which was published by the Scottish Whisky Association, which is a very interesting report. I'll try and see if I can pull it as we are having this conversation at some point of time, which says that while few of the markets, the sale for Scotch whiskies have been declining. India for them versus 24-25 has grown by 15%. So 15%, and markets like US, there is a decline of minus 3-4%. All the all the traditional Scotch drinking markets, there has been a decline. Whereas India, for Scotch export, despite us being the number one selling single malt in India, has grown by 15%. And that itself shows that the population's affordability in terms of affording, and the first expression that you're tasting, the Trini, is priced about $55 in some states to $60 in some states. In India, the prices are not way different from what it's priced in the US. So yes, there is a natural drive that is happening right over there.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think I've taken up enough airtime. Let's move on to the tasting.
Absolutely. Great. So, what you're tasting is called as the Trini. Now, the Trini is a very interesting. That's how the bottle looks and feels. Now, Trini, the name Trini means three because there are three different types of wood that we have used in maturing the single malt whiskey. It's ex-bourbon, French red wine, and PX sherry cask. So the first expression from the portfolio, what we decided to do was we decided to bring three different woods: bourbon, red wine, and sherry. So this is not liquid that's moved from bourbon to wine and then to sherry. These are liquid that are independently matured in bourbon casks, independently matured in wine casks, and independently matured in sherry casks. And that's why if you taste, you find that there are elements of bourbon, there are elements of the red wine, and there are elements of sherry playing in. So what the blender does is the blender draws liquid from each of these casks separately and then marry them together in a vat for about for about 30 to 45 days before we bottle every batch. And the proportion varies batch to batch because there's a particular flavor profile, liquid profile that the blender has in mind. So sometimes there's a little bit more of bourbon going in, sometimes there's a little bit more of wine going in. The average age of the single malt is about 6 years. So the youngest liquid is six, but there's also 8-year-old liquid in this particular single malt. And we all know bourbon has the vanilla, the coconuts, the fruity notes. Wine gives you the raisins, dark fruits, pepper, bit of oakiness, bit of tannins, and the sherry gives that fantastic sweet notes. And that's what Trini is, all about. Nice, light, floral notes, but then there is the citrusy orange peels that comes in, black tea, um, slight amount of tannicness also at the back. Nice wood spice when you finish. Cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg. So that's a Trini that you've tasted. All our expressions that we do are all non-chill filtered, no added colors. So natural color, non-chill filtered. Um, you know, uh, the 6-row barley, we get the fats. So why cut the fats by chill filtering it? So leave the fats for the whiskey. So a lot of whiskeys kept at cold temperature, especially the cask strength whiskeys, you'll find that they form sediments, and that's pretty natural because of the high protein and fat content that we've got in our whiskeys, of course. Um, what do you think about the Trini, the Indri Trini? Um, Perfect. That's nice. Thanks for the lots of thumbs up that we're getting. Um,
So I added a drop of water to it, and I thought that worked out really well for it.
Interesting.
As I said, I got a little dust on the palate to me. Yeah, my wife did not, which is why I kind of asked about the red wine because I felt it had kind of that red wine when you have a dry red wine finish. So, and the PX cask I had on the palate, sorry, on the nose, but not so much on the palate.
Very, very interesting that you pointed that out because if I have to ask you guys to guess the composition of the bourbon, red wine, and the sherry, how much would you, let's say, if somebody has to say X% of bourbon, X% of red wine, X%. Um, so you want to go in the chat and just type in what do you think, if you were to be a blender, what do you think would be a proportion of these three casks that would have come in this liquid? I think we should just, I'll kind of reveal as to what the approximate percentage of the liquid is. But if you were to take a wild guess, okay, so I'm seeing over here 30, 50, 20. Jane says 60, 30, 10. So I assume this is bourbon, red wine, and sherry, right? When you write it, 50, 25, 25, 98 and 2. That's interesting. Equal portions, same as Jason, which is 30, 50, 20. Okay. Interesting. So while, they say that this is the recipe of the distillery, once I had the opportunity to ask Surinder, our master blender, what is the proportion? And he told me that it's a tough fight between the red wine and the bourbon. Sometimes the red wine is 5% more than the bourbon. So the sherry is only 10% of the whole composition, right? So the rest 90, it's either 45, 35 or 45 bourbon, 35 red wine, and that varies batch to batch. Too much of sherry would kill the liquid. So sherry is used usually to round off the flavors of the bourbon and also probably to hide certain tannins that come out of the red wine, and therefore the sherry is used as an element over there. So that's why a little bit more than teaspoon sherry, Jason. Maybe a few more spoons rather than a teaspoon. So that's what the composition is. Again, does not go out of the room. Nobody quotes me. For all those people seeing the recorded video, also nobody quotes me on this. I've never said that. So
It's interesting that you're using PX instead of Oloroso. Is there a reason for that?
we think, in fact, Sam was there and Sam tasted both the single cask PX and Oloroso. And the PX for us in our hot climate um, shows up really well than the Oloroso. And Oloroso, for us, unfortunately, uh, it tends to be more sharper, a little bit more sulfur comes out quite frequently. So we tend to like PX more than the Oloroso cask. But we do have some fantastic Oloroso cask as well. Sam, do you want to add anything about what you tasted about both the PX and Oloroso at the distillery? And share
Well,
your thoughts on?
it's very difficult to argue with Surinder because he's a legend and he's the one who brought other Indian whiskeys to #3 whiskey in the world and 97 points, etc. And he's very like Surinder. We need more Indri. And he goes, Sam, I need for you to be patient because I'm not going to release it before I see it's ready to be bottled and to be released. He's something very, very, very special. I found, I don't know why, because majority of whiskeys that we bring from Scotland are matured if it's between sherry cask or Oloroso. But here I found it a little bit drier. And I'm not sure if it's a benefit or it's a result of the climate where the distillery is located. But with PX, got to be very careful. And that's why, Surinder is taking the lead on this. So yeah, that's the major differences. We did get some single cask samples and I saw a big difference between Oloroso and PX.
We are investing and buying equal quantities of PX, but I think PX for us was a natural choice because Surinder felt that the PX went along well in a triple cask. And the result is that we're also stuck because we need more and more PX because we've launched an expression and the expression is the largest selling expression. And last year we had to really cut back our sales because we didn't have enough PX maturing to meet the blend quality. So it's always a challenge for us. Now, I think we should get to the next expression, which is the new baby in the portfolio. We call it as the Agneya. So Agneya is uh, the recent baby from our portfolio. So Sam and I had a conversation if we have to do the cask strength or the Agneya first, but we decided to do the Indri Agneya first because it's at 46%. It's at 46%. It is a lightly peated whiskey, but it's not a heavily peated whiskey, so it's not going to really coat your mouth with all the peat. So you can always go back to non-peated whiskies after this. But for us, Agneya was very. Before we get to Agneya, I just wanted to say that um, Whiskey Advocate initially gave us a 92 points for this, and then later revised the points to 94 points. We've been winning a lot of awards for this particular expression, Indri Trini, that you've tasted across. And, we were category leaders the year when we came out with and stuff like that. Wine Pair ranked it the top 15 whiskies, the 15 of the 20 whiskies for 2022. And Whiskey Advocate gave it, uh, again, number 17, the top 20 whiskies to be had in 2022. So those are a few accolades that helped us get to the wider audience and make them try a new world whiskey. Agneya. Now, Agneya was Sam is ever since we started doing training, Sam has always been mentioning it would be nice to have something peat and sherry and peat and sherry, and we decided that we should come up with peat and sherry. But the challenge with peat and sherry is that if you make it a fully bold peated whiskey with a lot of sherry, there's only so much of people that are going to like it. So what we decided to do is, I can see Hendrik's hand going up. Yes, Hendrik, go ahead.
No, I would be one of the people that would like it.
Right. So we missed a good customer by not launching a fully peated and a fully sherry whiskey. But I hope
the peat alone had me hooked.
So this one is a lightly peated whiskey. Now, what makes it lightly peated is by choice, also by nature. I'll tell you why. And a lot of Indian population in India, because as I said, 70% of what we produce is sold in India. And if you see, a lot of Indians have traditionally been drinking lightly peated whiskey, not knowing that it's lightly peated whiskey. We have a brand called as the Teachers, and there's a Teachers Highland Cream, which is the largest selling blended malt in India, and it is a blended whiskey in India, and it has peat in it. Johnny Walker Black, the biggest market for Johnny Walker Black Label is India, and Indians who traditionally have been consuming Johnny Walker Black never knew that it had a peat from Kalila Distillery in it. The peated whiskeys from Kalila Distillery in it. So we wanted to create something which appeals to the wider global audience also, and also to the audience in India. Because if it becomes heavily peated, people are not going to like it. They don't understand it, right? They don't understand that they're drinking a peated whiskey. They would probably call it a smoky whiskey or a woody whiskey. Let's put it that way. So when we came up with Agneya, now, as I said, Trini was a Sanskrit name. Agneya is also a Sanskrit name. Agneya means, Ag means fire in Indian language. And Agneya means belonging to fire. Or the daughter of fire. It's a very simple but elegant whiskey where we use two liquids. So it's peated bourbon and unpeated sherry. So peated bourbon matured separately and unpeated sherry matured separately. And then we marry the bourbon and the sherry together. Again, the same way, we vat it together for about 30, 40 days before we bottle it across. So that there is a nice marriage of the sweetness from the sherry and the bourbon cask. So For me, this is my new favorite because I really like how the peat is subtle. It greets you in the nose and then disappears, and then you get all the bourbon qualities, the honey, vanilla, the fruitiness, and then a little bit of the nuttiness, and then the peat coming when you finish it across very subtly. Um, you know, it's got a very unique for me, I can just keep nosing this whiskey for a long time. It's so good on the nose. I love lightly peated whiskeys, and for me, this was a gift. Again, if you see the nose, you can see that there is peat dust to it. I would say that the dusty nose that you get is a character of our distillery. You find the dust in all our expressions, and that's probably the DNA of our distillery. There's grains. Um, there's also a little bit of bacony, light charcoal kind of a peat. So that would make you guess that the peat is not from the Isla region and definitely not from India. So we don't have peat in India at all. We don't have any known source of peat in India. Yes, there could be peat in colder regions like the mountains and stuff like that, but it's not commercially excavated and used across. So what do? We bring in peat as peat blocks from Scotland, from the Highland region. We give it to the malting unit, ask them to malt it with the Highland peat. Now, when we do that, the ppm is less. It's about 25 ppm. And then when you are maturing it in a hot climate for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, a lot of peat is also lost. So literally 10 to 15 ppm of peat on the glass. So it's very lightly peated. So that's what the nature does to us. It's that it kind of absorbs, it takes away a lot of the peat. So it's gentle, rounded smokiness that comes with it. And then you have the rich fruits, the bananas, the mangoes, the sweet caramel that comes in and offers a fantastic blend. Um, Average age is about 5 years, and but it do has components of 6 and 7 year old whiskeys across. But the youngest liquid in this is about 5 years, and that's what is Agneya for us. Stopping over here, going to the chat box so that I can also read what all you guys are up to after the scoring. Uh, yes, the citrus orange finish was in the Trini. Um, People who like peated whiskey have a terrible taste. Nice. Thanks for the nice scores. Absolutely, Jane. Mango, toffee, melon, a campfire peat. I think I should invite you to write tasting notes for us, Jane, because this is really nice the way you've described. Um, Absolutely, Madam. So what we've tried to do is we didn't want something that Surinder is always about. So I need to tell you a little bit about Surinder. Surinder, before he joined us, he spent about 30 years with Amrut Distilleries. He was the master distiller and blender for Amrut. And after distilling and blending some fantastic whiskies for them, um, uh, he was about to retire, and we kind of said, "You can't retire. Such a great whiskey maker can never retire." And we pulled him up, and he started creating these fantastic expressions for us. And one thing about Surinder is that he always likes a balance. He always likes to balance out his liquid, keep it rounded, so that he doesn't want one character to overpower another character. So when I read Vadam saying that's the hint of heat in a really good salsa, the salsa, thanks to the credit is to Surinder to make this nice salsa of peat and unpeated whiskies. So it is peated ex bourbon, and Jason is asking for a peated ex bourbon single cask. Sam has picked up some single cask samples when he was there. I'm looking forward to what he'll be interested. Currently, whatever we are having as good liquid is used to make the Agneya. So this is what we are, and this is where we are at the moment. Any questions? Any comments? Uh, Yes, Henrik. I think the more it sits on the glass, with all our whiskeys, the more it sits, the more it breathes. It starts showing a lot more character. And what I have now got to a bad habit is that after I finish a glass of Agneya, I keep nosing the glass for a long time after it's done because it's got that nice bourbon and peat, and the fruits and citrus that plays in the glass. And I love nosing the glass for a long period of time. And we've also been very realistic in pricing this. Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's priced about $65 in the US across all markets. So for that price, for this kind of a liquid, we thought it was a good placement.
Yeah, we positioned it between 70 to 75, but I got some good news for you guys. I'll let you know later about the price.
Mm. For me, I'm enjoying it even more because I'm on a fresh palate. I've not had any food since morning. Um, and the palate is clean. I brushed like 3 hours ago, so I can taste a lot more today. We're all, oh, Jacob says we're all being shipped free bottles. Sam, that's for you. Okay, guys. Any other? It's got a bit of astringency too. Jane, the astringency is because of the tropical climate that we've got. The extraction is so much, despite the blending of surrender, there is a little bit of the sharpness, a little bit of astringency that stays back. We try to cut it back. So it's a fight between how do you reduce the deep woody notes and hide them away. So it's always going to be a challenge for us. But I think it also makes the character of the whiskey, Jane.
I
Let
actually
me share some.
that.
Go ahead, Jane.
I was gonna say I actually like that. It's that nice little bit. It's the sort of thing, and it's like takes the fuzz off your teeth. It's really, it's just a little bit. It's just enough, and it's perfect, just like this.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to share it because the news is for Madhu as well. And like a couple hours ago, we got a Costco orders for both Trini and Agneya. So here's the labels, and this will be for two Costco's in Orange County. One is Irvine, another one Tustin. So it's going to be delivered this week, coming week, and the following one. So as always, we're looking for your help of cleaning the shelves. And since it's 70 or 75 nationwide, it's going to be 62 at Costco. So
Wow.
we need you to buy some bottles because they put us on the test. We know the whiskey is absolutely fantastic. They need to know, and we count on you to go and buy a few bottles and more. sorry for my commercial spiel, but
You said what,
No.
Tustin and which one?
so it's Irvine and
Okay.
Tustin. And if you want to see our rep there, she's going to be. I can probably send it through Vadim if you want to talk more about that because, Madhu knows a little bit, and our rep demo person knows much more. Of course, I'm being shitty. Just stop by and see Sarah. You probably know Sarah by now, and if not, just buy the bottles. That's all.
Yeah.
Buy and enjoy.
Sounds good.
Sorry, Madhu.
No problem. Shall I go ahead, guys? Now, what's happening is I'm inviting you for a real treat. When I say a real treat, I think one of the best liquid that we can put together in a bottle is done in our next expression, which is called as the DRU, right? Now, DRU was the second expression to come out of the portfolio, so it's called as the Indri DRU, DRU. We call it as DRU. DRU again is a Sanskrit word, and it was a tough choice to name this expression, and we think DRU was an apt name for it. So after we launched the triple cask, a lot of people started asking us what next. Are you going to do a four cask finish or a four cask matured whiskey or things like that? And a lot of people are also asking, hey, how would ex bourbon liquid from your distillery taste like? Can we have it? Can you bottle it across? And for us, the challenge is that we didn't want to do something which tasted slightly okayish then Indri. We wanted to always keep our bar up and up. So this is the second expression to come out of our portfolio. And this particular expression is actually a cask strength single malt whiskey. So it's bottled at 57.2%. The people who have tasted it and not felt it 57.2%, thanks to Surinder, because that's the way he's made this whiskey. Some people say that it's 50%, some people say it's 48. Um, it is 100% ex-bourbon barrels, both first fill and second fill. There are two different types of fills. Um, and it is so delicious, so rich, so full. Um, that the best ABV that we could bottle it, bring it down and bottle it was 57.2%. So it's not a single cask whiskey, it's a cask strength where we have lowered down the ABV because we're marrying a lot of bourbon casks together. And to keep it as a standard, we've kept the standard as 57.2% because I think that's a sweet spot where this liquid plays well. Dhru in Sanskrit means a wooden vessel. And as per ancient mythology, this wooden vessel was used to offer alcohol to gods. It was an offering. So in the Hindu mythology, even in Hindu culture, there were offerings made to God in terms of flowers, fruits, various things. And certain gods, offering of alcohol is also made. And like the quake, there is a nice wooden vessel in which alcohol was poured and offered to gods. And this was like a wooden vessel that held alcohol. And we thought 7 years holding alcohol in bourbon cask, we should name this expression Dhru. So the youngest liquid in this is about 7, but I must also tell you the oldest that this particular liquid has also got is about 9-year-old liquid. For me, Dhru is a very complex whiskey because on the nose it's very elegant, simple, fruit forward, vanilla, coconut, pineapple. But on the palate there is lots of fruits. There's peaches, apricots, mango, banana, ripened fruits. Then the mandarin oranges come, and then a little bit of limey, citrusy zest, and then the zest move to give way for spices, cinnamon. There is also baked spice, a little bit of nutmeg, pepper, white pepper, and I think finishes off nicely with that sweet, long, warm finish. I think for me, it's one of a delicious treat from our portfolio. Drew, um, that's the tasting notes, the official tasting notes that Surinder wrote when he tasted Drew. We also find in the tannins because we also use a 7, 8, 9-year-old liquid. The woodiness comes from there. Uh, if you rest it in the glass for some time, maybe add a drop of water or two, it starts showing a totally different character altogether. So it's one of those complex, multi-layered single malt that I would say that never feels like you're drinking a cask strength whiskey. So that's what I have to say about Dhru. Would love to hear what you all feel about Dhru and got toffee and it paired perfectly. Incredible nose, sandalwood and lemon with gin. So very interesting that you say sandalwood. Because for me, I always say sandalwood when I taste my liquid. And I go and tell people in the distillery that I'm tasting sandalwood, and people look at me. And not all people have nosed sandalwood. And only people who have nosed sandalwood would know that it's sandalwood across. And I think it is from um, it's a very peculiar flavor, aroma profile that I get. So it's very interesting to see that you've written sandalwood.
Yeah, I had a thing for sandalwood incense when I was in college, so it's a scent that I'm used to, although not recently. But one of my favorite perfumes has a sandalwood base, so it's up there for something that I would notice. This is honestly, this is probably one of the most amazing whiskeys I've tasted in a long time because there's so many things going on so many different levels. I mean, it's like trying to pick out the flavors. I put a list and I'm like, that wasn't even all I was tasting, but I was like, I can't keep up.
Oh wow, that's oily. That's black licorice. Nice. Interesting, Jane. Yes, hint of clove, finger lime, cacao. Yes, sandalwood's honey sweetness, cloves definitely in there, and it's oily. It's very viscous. At cask strength, the viscosity is even more high. Um, Jacob wants this as a candle that I would love as well. If somebody's making a candle out of it, send some my way. And so, if I have to ask you to pick one of the three, what would you pick? I would love to say all three. I would love to hear all three, but still, I was just trying to take a poll before we taste one of the special things that we bottled for Sam, and Sam bottled for himself, rather.
I was going to say my first instinct is all three, but the Drew just kind of blew everything else away. I would not kick any of these bottles off my shelf, though.
That's nice.
Anyone in the LA area want extra samples? I'll be pouring them up. I see there's a lot of people saying in the comments that they like them. So I got a bottle. It's freaking delicious. This is one of my favorite whiskeys of now. This is awesome. So.
Jay, that's so nice of you to share with your friends. That's so nice of you to say that. Cheers to that.
I mean, usually people do that where they don't like their whiskey, so they share. But this is special.
I mean, for me, it's definitely the Agneya.
Agneya.
Yeah, Agneya is. I mean, to me, the best ones of the three. But I'm a peat head. I thought that was really good.
There's a poll over there.
You mentioned that you bring down the ABV of this a little bit. Is it like naturally because you take lower ABV barrels, combine it with higher ABV, or are you adding water to it?
So very interesting. So all our casks at single cask level are above 60%. Some of them at 64. We fill them at 62.5 to 63. Some of them go up to 64, 65 because we lose a lot of water. Some of them fall down to 59. What happens is that since we thought of creating this as an expression and not like a single cask series, we wanted to hold it at one ABV where the liquid sits perfect. And for some reason, Surinder felt 57.2 is 57% was where it was sitting perfectly. And it also gives us room to play with both the 59 and the 60 plus single casks that we are playing together. And so it's watered down to 57. And I think a little bit of watering down also helps us cutting off those sharpness from the liquid. So it's an intentional water down to bring it at 57.2.
And I remember, correct me if this is wrong, when we tasted another Indian brand, they mentioned that in India, the law doesn't allow you to bottle anything over 60. Is that correct?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And there is no questions about it. Even our single cask that we ship to the US, which goes in our own brand, is bottled at 58.5 because of this law where the excise does not allow us to register labels above 60%.
Wow.
So anything above 60% cannot be produced and sold in India. So we can't, unless and until we decide to take the liquid out in, even if you decide to take the liquid out in like totes or in IVC containers, it has to be at 60%. So that's a huge challenge that we face, thanks to the law and regulations of the land. So we have to find a way to work around this.
By the way, this with a few drops of water, it's just totally different. It's amazing. I don't get to vote either, Jane, so I hope that makes you feel better. The results are in all over the map.
Right, all over there.
Yeah, so Drew took first place, and then all three took second place. So you're doing
Hmm.
something right.
Is
Um,
is the water that you use are treated? You treat your water?
so what happens is we have the river Yamuna that flows from the Kashmir uh, down. So, I'm just gonna, share the screen so that, it just gets a good perspective of what I'm talking about. So if I have to like go back and to the first slide where I showed the map of India, if you look at this, you see that's the Himalayas. So glacial waters from the Himalayas flow down, and that's called as the river Yamuna. And also the Ganges also flows. Our distillery is uh, like maybe 700 to 800 meters away from the river Yamuna. So what it does is it wets the ground throughout the year. So we have wells within our distillery where we draw the water from, and then this water is demineralized and treated. When I say treated, it's passed through filtration process, not chemically treated. It passed through filtration process, and then they are demineralized. So the water does not add any other than just a reducing element of ABV. It does not add any character or flavors to the whiskey. So it's groundwater source that's filtered and demineralized. That's what we use. And we've got rich groundwater source because the pristine waters, before it actually gets to passing through the cities and gets polluted before it reaches the Ganges, it is absorbed by the groundwater. So we have plenty of water source down over there. And it's very interesting for you to notice that both the rivers, the Yamuna and the Ganga, originates from there, and then it joins into the Ganges, and then flows into the Bay of Bengal. So um, that's the flow of the river. Now, the next expression that we are going to taste is a single cask that was bottled specifically for ImpEx by ImpEx. So we sent some samples to Sam, and Sam picked up cask number 1746. And I don't have a sample with me to taste, but from my memories, I'm going to talk about it because I even checked with the distillery. Every drop of liquid was emptied and sent to Sam. So this is only available under the Impex bottling with Sam. Sam has posted the link of the liquid on his thing. It's a 7-year-old red wine cask bottled at 53.5% ABV. And this one for me, we've got two red wine single casks that we shipped worldwide, and both of them are my favorites. One is cask number 303 that we had shipped to Germany, which is also a 7-year-old red wine cask, and that was under the Indri bottling. And the other one was to Sam, the 1746. We also did other single casks to Sam under the Indri collection. But now, 1746 is 100% French red wine. So the red wine that we use so far and that you've tasted so far are just Bordeaux red French wine casks. And this is also a Bordeaux red French wine cask. Lots of raisins, lots of dried fruits, nice sandalwood again. And from my memory, it's got a little bit of those peppery notes that's coming in. Bottled at 53.5%. And it also gives you a dimension of how a Bordeaux finished, a Bordeaux red wine cask liquid matured in a Bordeaux red wine cask in a tropical climate would come in. It's got those nice vinous raisins, soaked raisins, dark berries, figs. Yeah, so that would what would summarize. Sam, you want to speak more about this? What made you choose this? What do you think are the notes of this one?
Sure. Thanks, Madhu. As most of you know, my career started with independent bottlers, and independent bottlers is all about single cask. And it was Signatory, it was Gordon MacPhail, it was some other well-known names. But then we started importing single malts from different Scottish distillery and then worldwide distilleries. And what I really enjoy is the fact that we're able to select and bottle the single casks from these distilleries, almost everything in our portfolio, couple not, but almost everything. And Indri was very kind to give us this chance of showing how far the distillery could go in terms of taste and quality. I also like the kind of when it's broken down by components. So Trini is red wine cask from Bordeaux region, PX and bourbon. So we tried the DRU, which is part of their Trini blend or marriage, and this single cask red wine cask. And I feel bad because after we brought this one, the distillery stopped offering any single casks for about over a year. So we gained a few friends, but a lot of people who were frustrated that they're not able to get a hold of a single casks. Well, it changed now about a week ago when I took my Uzi, go to the distillery and put it under or right next to Madhu. And now we're able to get some single casks. So it's great news. I just retasted it. And it reminded me, Madhu, a moment when we walked into your warehouse. It just, all this aromas, it just brought me back to India. So yes, I agree. I get some figs, I get some dates, some tropical fruits, some stewed or jammy fruit. The rest is in your hands, guys. Hope you like it as much as we do.
What I'm really enjoying is that every single expression we've had so far stands on its own. Because a lot of times you have a brand where, the 12, the 15, the 18, it's the same thing, just a little bit better. Here, each one has its own character, right? The Trini, the DRU, the one I can't pronounce, and then the single cask, they're all different. There's still a through element. They're all obviously from the same distillery, but they have their own character. They're fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
In the middle, I get a really nice, funky note that I get with like a linkwood or it's like the beginning of blue cheese, but then immediately the jam notes come out, so it almost tastes like a perfect like blue cheese on a cracker with like a jam puree, like in the best way. That funk note is just it's under, and just before it could turn and get real funky, that tropical note comes through. It's really, really pleasant.
Great point, Jordan. Also, when as Madhu mentioned, they sent it to us in tot, so we bottled it here, and we determined that 53.5, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, it's 53.5.
What's something that if people don't want to add water, it's still kind of enjoyable. It's big, but it's clean. It doesn't really put some extra pressure on you. And it's 7-year-old, and we proudly, put it on the label that it is 7-year-old, because, it's in India, as Madhu mentioned, so at about 15, probably more years old in Scotland or Ireland. And we thought if it was going to be there for another 6 months, a year, might have tasted a little bit different. So I told them, stop, put it in the tot, let's finish the aging, and let's just bottle it. So we thought that was fantastic year for age for it to be. Cheers to all of you.
Cheers, Sam.
Cheers, Sam. Cheers.
Actually, while we do that, let's do our cheers. This is the perfect moment. Let's let me turn on the camera, and Jamshid, come join us. Raise a glass, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm really enjoying myself. I hope you are too. Madhu, thank you for joining us. Sam, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here, and great to see you all. There we go. We got Jamshid back. Jay, pay attention. This guy. Raise a glass. Smile to the camera. There you go. Got it. Awesome. Thank you all. The nose on this is so floral and almond cookies, maybe? I'm trying to figure out butter cookies. Somebody correct me. So, Jane's a baker. What am I nosing on this?
I got shortcake out of it.
You know what? It's the same thing. It's all cookies to me.
Well, for me, it's less sweet from the other three. A little bit less.
I added 3 drops of water and the nose changed. It was really spicy to begin with, and now the nose changed to a little sweeter. I haven't tasted it with the water yet, but I could just nose this all night long. But you're right. This one is less sweet and a little more spicy than the other expressions.
I got almost an Anaheim chili note out of it. That not super hot chili, but it's just warm enough. It's more than a green pepper. It's nice. I like this a lot. Mazel tov, Sam.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. It's not me. It's Madhu and Surinder and people at the distillery. That's so hardworking. But yeah, it just happened. This cask happened to be A-okay. By the way,
Jason,
Henrik, the picture looks much better now with Alana, because last time we missed her. And Jason, same message to you. We missed you. Okay. And Golan, I like your beard. That's something
Jason
new,
just says that Jason just says that he's just ordered a bottle from Mission, and damn it, he says. Great. So, world of single malts end over here, and we move to something very different, very unusual. But before we move there, I think it's the right time for me to probably show the distillery and kind of also take you through the stills that we're talking about and stuff like that. So before we get to the rum, yes. So before we get here, that's Surrender for you. That's Surrender for you. So he's actually, I would say him is the father of Indian single malts. He's the man who put the Indian spirits on the global map. As I mentioned, for about 35 years, he was with Amrut distilling and making and blending some fantastic single malts for them. And Amrut was the first distillery out of India to launch a single malt whiskey in the world. But Surinder, after spending his time with Amrut, making some fantastic whiskeys, getting some fantastic awards, decided to move on. And currently, he is fully involved with us. He nurtures the barrels. He is actively looking into what barrels to buy from where, traveling still to get the right barrels for the distillery, and then the rest of the time blending at the distillery. So that's Surrender for you. That's one large warehouse. It looks much cleaner in the picture. It was much dirtier outside when we visited last week with Sam. This is one warehouse that is our first warehouse. It houses about 40,000 barrels in one. They're not temperature controlled. It's natural. It's a natural warehouse. Let's put it that way. Those are our new set of babies, 8 stills that we started operational since last July 2025. The wash on the left and the spirit on the right-hand side. And that's a new set of stills that came in. Those are the old stills that was there in the distillery. Here you don't see the wash and the spirit in the same line. They're all jumbled up. It was the way it was put in. So first they did the wash and the spirit towards the back, and then later, after a year, they put the wash and spirit towards the front. So that's why you see the wash and the spirit not being in the same line over here. But all of them, same style, same way. It's all manufactured in India with a still manufacturer in India. So there's no Scottish stills over here. It's all Indian made copper pot stills. The huge warehouse that we were talking, 40,000 barrels, that's the image on the left for you. So we have about 10 high in each rack, and they're about, it just walks probably about 800 meters deep. You have the sherry barrels to the front, the butts, and all the bourbon and the wine barrels resting on the back of it. That's the image of our visitor center that we've recently opened up. So if you're in India, if you're visiting Delhi, spending a day with us, please come down. It's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours drive from Delhi. It would be a long day, but you can drive in and drive out in the same day. So we've got a visitor center that we recently inaugurated. Even now, the visitor center it's not fully open for public. We're just awaiting some license so that we can serve alcohol officially over there. So it's only on invite basis. But you have Sam's number, you have my number. If ever you're coming to India, do visit us. That's the inside of the visitor center, which is built in the traditional Indian courtyard style, which we call as the Haveli, and that's how the visitor center looks. And yeah, so that's a bit about what we distill and what we do. And this is the same distillery that churns out another fantastic product range that you're going to taste, which is called as the rum. Now, the rum story is very different from all the other rums that exist in out over there, because we are the first pure cane juice rum out of India. So India has been traditionally growing sugarcane, local sugarcane, for thousands of years. And you wouldn't be surprised if I say that we are the second largest sugarcane growing population country in the world after Brazil. So Brazil is the largest sugarcane growing country, and after that, it's India. And the sugarcane rum was not a new thing to India. So much before the British left, the villages around our distillery used to ferment fresh sugarcane juice, and they used to distill them in traditional pot stills, not copper pot stills, but pot stills, wooden and clay pot stills and stuff like that. And that is what was consumed before the British introduced the whiskey and the other part in the northern part of India. So somewhere we are a distillery which is located, which is surrounded by fields, and a lot of these fields are sugarcane. We have wheat, we have mustard. A lot of things are going across. We also have a sugar mill right inside our compound. So what we decided to do was that we decided when we were distilling malt spirit way back in 2012, we decided to actually ferment a batch of fresh sugarcane juice, distill it, and put them in about 1,000 odd barrels and leave it and see what happens. And then after every couple of years, we did some small batches of this fresh sugarcane juice, matured them in bourbon and red wine barrels, like how we matured, the single malt whiskey. Now, because of the huge size and sheer size of the operation, we had put these barrels in one part of our warehouse and completely forgot about it till 2022, when we discovered that the first batch of barrels carrying the sugarcane juice were actually aged for 12 years, and we lost 94% of the liquid to evaporation. So the rest 6% of the liquid was then emptied and bottled out. So that batch was only 1,200 bottles out of the 1,000 barrels that we had put for maturation. So it's almost like a bottle and a half per barrel is what that we got as an yield. And those lovely 1,200 bottles, I think 180 bottles or so, made its way to the US. You'd be lucky if you can find a Camikara 12-year-old in any of the online websites. If yes, I would want you to just go and buy a bottle, because it's an absolute delicious liquid. You would be torn to understand if it was a sugarcane rum or if it's a malt matured in a rum cask. So that was the first liquid that became, and we called it Camikara because Camikara means liquid gold in Sanskrit, Chamikar, and that's how the name Camikara came into being. And that's why we call it as a rum like no other, because it's a very unique rum. It's an agricole style rum. We can't call it agricole because we're not there in the French Reunion Islands. So it's an agricole style rum with absolutely no additives, no added color, no added flavor, no added sugar. Most of the rums out over there add sugar to it. We don't add any amount of sugar to it. And that's how Camikara came into being. So 3 simple ingredients: sugarcane juice, water, and yeast. And then we distill them in the pot stills that you saw. And that's how this rum comes into being. I think you've got two rums with you, the 8-year-old and the 3-year-old. So the 8-year-old comes in a fantastic bottle like this. The 12-year-old also comes in a fantastic bottle like this. So for me, the 8-year-old is like like a smaller brother of the 12-year-old, not as complex as the 12, but a good sipping rum. Um, for me, it's a sawdust that I get in the nose first. The sawdust, and then there is those nice earthy, very very earthy vegetal notes, along with a hint of banana, nice raw banana peels, a little bit of the musk melon, and then there is a old rug leather. Probably that's the vegetable note that I'm getting. This is bottled at 43%, 42.8%. We wanted to keep it so it's a sipping rum, so it's not really harsh. On the palate, it's delicious. All those sweet fruits, lots of melaninas, eggnog, a little bit of baked spice again, wood. But see, this is matured both in red wine cask and bourbon cask and married together. So you get the tannins also, you get the little bit of the dryness right over there. But I think it's a very unique, very different, simple sipping rum that we've created. Of course, it's got a gold and a lot of awards for itself, for its character and quality. Now, all you whiskey geeks, I'm keen as to what you think about the rum. Thing says it's a body of buttery note, jaggery sweetness, molasses and maple leather. Yes, leather. Old books, old rug, old books. That's what we get. Mm, thanks the timing on the eggnog. Yes, it has got that nutmeg dusted eggnog-y file to it. Mm.
Are you using molasses or the jaggery or juice itself?
Just the juice, just the juice. We don't. It's just pure cane. We just juice it out, and the juice
Please
is
and right
collected for.
away distill.
Yeah, yeah, and then goes. It's fermented and goes to the still. That's it.
Because I know the juice is lasts very, very short time. You have to distill
Absolutely.
it right
So
away.
what happens is that we've got sugar growing right outside the distillery. So it's cut freshly come into the distillery. Just in fact, when Sam was there, Sam was witnessing the fermentation that we were doing with some sugarcane juice. And the first thing that he, even before he could go into the fermentation tank, was he was telling that I could get that sour, very soury notes on my nose. And I think that when you ferment the fresh sugarcane juice, you get the souriness. Uh, if you just leave it for a long time, it's going to get spoiled. So it's a tricky thing. But yeah, this is what the result we get out of 8 years.
Is extremely smooth for rum. So like it's very, very easy drink compared to the funkiness that you get in the plastic note that you get in other rum. Are you again? I didn't try the 8 yet, but you making a rougher rush rum as well, or it's always refined?
So we have the 3-year and the 8-year that you're tasting today. We're tasting the 8-year now. The 3-year, unfortunately, I don't have a bottle of the 3-year with me. But from my memory, if you keep a 3-year by the side and start tasting it, the 3-year on the nose and on the palate, you start to get the more vegetal earthy notes. There's more sugarcane juice over there on the 3-year than the 8-year-old. I think 8-year, the cask tends to overtake a little bit of the liquid character. The 3-year-old, the The earthy vegetal notes is still pretty predominant on the nose, and the sweetness is pretty there. It's got light hints of vanilla and a little bit of soft spice and leather from the bourbon cask, but that is more earthier and more vegetal than the 8-year-old. So the 8-year-old is more refined than the three. We have not yet got the thought and the idea of to do an unaged rum, but the unaged fresh spirit, rum spirit, if you drink it, it is super vegetable and it's super tasty. So uh, the 3 year is again in pot distilled, just over 3 years, and it's bottled. So unlike most of the rums, usually when rum spells out an age, unlike whiskey, it's the older liquid that is already spelled out in rums. So if somebody says it's an 8-year-old rum, it is the oldest liquid in it is 8-year-old. The whereas the 3 year, whereas for us, when we say 8 years or 3 years, it's the youngest liquid in it. So it's entirely measured for 3 and 8 years old. So that's one thing that we are proud to distinguish ourselves, that our the aging is completely 8 and 3 over there.
What percentage of your operation is rum compared to the single malt, compared to, I don't know, if you do other stuff?
See, what happens is the rum is a very seasonal crop for us. We have two seasons, one around September, October, the other one around February at this point of time, and that's it. We don't get any more of the fresh cane juice. So what we have been doing for the last 3 years, during the seasons, we do two batches of rum because um, we've not really had the volume to sell. So we do two batches for both the season, and that's it. The rest of the time, the distillery is only running our single malts. So that's what we do. Two seasons, fresh, and it's done. Anybody else? Anything more on the rum? Interesting. Sea salt. Bone leather, I'm sure I 100% agree to it because I do get this old drug, really old leather.
Leave it to Jane to always throw out a food I need to Google. Jaggery.
Jaggery is awesome.
Jaggery is awesome. Jaggery is actually the syrup that you heat for a long time. It starts getting consolidated, and that's what you call it the jaggery. And as such, it tastes really nice. And if you're gonna use them on desserts, it's gonna add a nice twist to it.
I
Lime
tried
truffles.
another Indian rum that using jaggery is they do it from jaggery, not from the juice, the rum.
It's called Amrut Bella. So Amrut Dasa Bella, which is a jaggery rum actually. The rest of the rums that come out of India are molasses or even artificially flavored. So Capta lime. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's finger lime because Jason was stuck on finger puppet limes. Um, I'm not normally like someone who would sip a rum. I'm used to rums in other things, and I think these are probably the first two that I would actually happily just put in a glass and sip. Um, I really like the 3 year. The 8 year is so much more subtle, but it kind of sneaks back up on you and whacks you upside the head because it's so good.
Sure. Thanks for that, Jane, because when we created this, our intention was to make a good sipping rum that people can sit and enjoy. And it also stands good in a very good cocktail, even for a simple daiquiri. The 8 or the 3 makes a fantastic liquid with any of the cocktails. Um, Very interestingly, our German importers bottle their own rum and cola, and they use the the 8-year-old rum with cola, and for them they were going gaga over it because they just loved it. So yeah,
I think this rum is designed for single malt Scotch whiskey lovers. Hot
absolutely.
distilled, very unique because of the sugarcane juice made from sugar. And also, I think the age statement is what's on the bottle is what's in the bottle. Yeah, so sipping for sure. I agree with you, Jane, 100%. We actually had 8-year-old entered and being used in Florida by Disney World for a year now. So, yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that brings us to. I wish I had more whiskeys and rum to share with you, and then the session kept going. But I think that's all we have for the lineup. I would leave it open to Sam and the rest of the team. Kamikara Highball is a very interesting idea, Jason. In fact, I have a colleague of mine, and her favorite is Kamikara Highball. She always tops it up with soda and drops a huge cube of ice, and she just loves sipping on it. So that's not a bad idea at all.
I was just saying in the chat that I don't drink soda anymore, but this rum, sparkling water, and a touch of an allspice drown would accomplish almost the same thing, and I bet that would be spectacular. There you go, go on.
Fantastic.
We have one gentleman in the room who's been quiet from minute one. Let's introduce Shrey as our new
So
US.
Shrey,
I mean, go ahead.
So thanks, Sam. Shrey is my colleague. He's joined in my team, and I've been pulling him in all my tasting sessions so that he could see, learn, and appreciate what we do. So it's learning on the job for him. Shrey comes from a beer company called Bira that he used to work in India with, and then I've asked Shrey to help take over the day-to-day operations and things of the US market. But US is very close to me. Sam and team is very close to me, so I'm not going to let my hands out. But Shrey Shrey is there to give that extra love and extra focus for the US market. So that's Shrey. Shrey, hi, and thanks so much for you also to join the tasting with
Hi,
me
Madhu.
today. Yeah, hi, Shrey.
So, Madhu, don't even think if you think of quitting on US, go back to our contract.
No, Sam, not at all. Not at all.
But Shrey, welcome aboard. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamshed. Thanks for mentioning. That was a good presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I'm not a very animative person, but I just shared whatever is true from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you like the liquid. Lovely bunch of guys. I like it when all of you speak, share what you're tasting. Then I just love this group today, and hopefully after some time with some more expressions, some more liquids by your way.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us tonight. This was absolutely fantastic. As always, we're blown away. This was really, really great. And we look forward to hosting you next time you're in town. And if you're ready for another virtual next year or a couple of years when there's a few more things for us to taste, we're excited to see your journey. So congratulations on all your success. This liquid has been absolutely fantastic. And thank you for spending your morning with us. We appreciate you sharing your passion. This was really, really impressive.
Thank you so much, madam. And I really appreciate you guys having me over here. Thanks to you. Thanks to Sam. Thanks to all of you for putting this together. And if there is nothing, I would like to take a break and wish you a great evening. It's just office, so I've had a drink or two, and I'm just getting into the day's work. So it's going to be a funny day for me today. So I'll have that on my side.
Nice. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye. Bye, Sam.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye, Madhu. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.